Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to tell you about the books I read in March and February. February I didn't do a wrap up. I read for like half the month, obsessively reading, and then I just stopped. Fell into a reality TV show binge and stopped reading. So my reading picked back up in March. So I figured I would just push the 2 months into one because I've read some really amazing books and I don't want to skip sharing about them. So I'll start with the books that I read in February. The first book I picked up was American Street by Evie Zaboy. This book I think I gave 4.5 or 5 stars. It follows a girl who is an immigrant from Haiti, and her mom were coming to America to live with her aunt, and her mom gets detained and she gets sent on to be with her aunt. They were coming to the country under the pretense that they were just coming on vacation, but they did plan on staying. So the main character is now in America in a completely new culture, going to school and navigating a new relationship, and also like worrying about her mom and wondering what's going to happen to her and trying to get her to America. So I really didn't know what this book was about besides that, and I'm not sure if you're supposed to, but there is like a little touch of magic and or magical realism or something that is really tied into the main character's religion. And there is a storyline about like some drug dealing going on at her school, and there's stuff going on with her family and her cousins, and there's just so much going on in this book. At first I felt a bit confused. Well, no, not confused, a bit like uninterested, and then the story really started to pick up, and there's like all this stuff going on in the main character's life, and she doesn't know how to handle it, and she doesn't have her mom there to guide her, and her American family isn't that supportive of her. They're just kind of letting her figure things out on her own. And this book was so good. The ending was very surprising, and then reading the author's note at the end, it was just so interesting, you know, because a lot of times authors have the ending before they write the book, and like reading what her inspiration was and like that she knew it was going this way the whole time was just so, like, I never knew that that's what this book would be about, which if you already know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, sorry, but reading the author's note is definitely a spoiler, so don't read it first. But this book was so stinking good, and I highly recommend it. It totally deserved to be a National Book Award finalist. The next book I picked up was an ebook from the library called I Almost Forgot About You by Terry McMillan. This book was not good at all. I really just saw the cover and that's what made me pick it up. I'd never heard about it, never was interested in it before, but I saw the cover, it looked cute, it looked like a fun adult contemporary, so I started reading it. I enjoyed the beginning, but things really went downhill from there. It follows a woman who was she's an optometrist, and she realizes that she's bored with her life. I think she's been divorced twice. She's kind of given up on love. So she's thinking about switching up her career, and then she decides to look up old flames from her life, whether she was married to them or dating them or just had romantic encounters with them, whatever. This book is written really strangely. It's rather confusing for being a contemporary. The timeline is really scrambled and doesn't make much sense. The main character makes really odd decisions. I don't know. I didn't really like the book. If you couldn't tell, the title really fits how I feel about this book. Like, I almost forgot I even read it. Okay, the next book I picked up was another Evie's a Boy, and it is Pride, which is a Pride and Prejudice remix. I love this so much. I haven't read Pride and Prejudice, which I know is awful, but this book is so good. It follows our main character, Zuri. I think it's Zuri. And the Darcys move in next door. They're in Brooklyn. And she lives in this, you know, kind of poor neighborhood in an apartment. And a rich family renovates the home across the street and moves in, and it's about the neighborhood being gentrified and about the stereotypes of people with money and poor people. And the two of them, Zuri and Darius Darcy, are so stinking cute. They are both like, so Darius is sometimes, it has, you know, multiple parts of himself that maybe show more around white people or rich people or when he's around black people. But like, Zuri is authentically herself no matter what, and I loved that about her so much. She was an amazing character to read from and so funny. Her and her family were amazing, and like how they're handling what's going on in their neighborhood and the new neighbors. It was just like so cute and funny, and I really want to read Pride and Prejudice, which I already knew I wanted to read, but this just made me want to read it even more. Look at that. I loved this so much. It was 5 out of 5 stars, and I highly recommend it. After that, I read another amazing 5-star read, The Wicker King by Kay Ancrum. Oh, this is just so hard for me to describe like why I love it, but it follows August and Jack, who are kind of like opposites. August is a bit of a misfit. Jack is popular and I think he plays sports, but they are best friends. So Jack, the main character, you're not sure if he is hallucinating or if he's really seeing into a fantasy world. So slowly he starts to see glimpses of this other world and people, and like he can see people walking around and they're like talking to him, but he can't hear them, he can just see it. And so in the fantasy world there is a quest that he starts to believe if he completes the quest, it will, you know, help him stop seeing this other world. So his best friend August is like, is he just hallucinating? I don't know, but I'm going to just support him and help him complete this quest. And this book was just so interesting because there are moments where you're convinced like it's real, and then you're convinced it's not real, he's hallucinating, and like either way it would have turned out, I would have loved it. And yeah, I won't say what ended up happening obviously, but this book was just so good, so interesting. Their friendship is like, is it something more, is it not? I think even the characters aren't really sure. I will say this book is like not a happy really book. The two of them are like kind of abusive towards each other. Well, yeah, they are abusive towards each other, and there's like some weird uncomfortable stuff going on, but even so, like, this book was just so good. I flew through it and was obsessed with it because I just wanted to know like what's going on. And the pages while you're reading start off light and they get darker and darker, and the story itself gets darker and darker. So yeah, amazing book. I can't wait to read more by this author, Kay Ancrum. And yeah, I'm obsessed with this. So after that, I picked up and put down so many books, but I won't even talk about those because hopefully they'll be in future wrap-ups, because I read like half of a few books and then yeah, broke. Then halfway through March, I started reading again. The first book I picked up was 99% Mine by Sally Thorne. She is the author who wrote The Hating Game. I had seen so many people picking up 99% Mine and it made me want to read it. I unfortunately didn't end up loving it. When I started reading it, I was really hooked. The main character, I feel like, is really unlikable. I forget her name, but the main woman character. She was unlikable, but so interesting, and I was so intrigued by her like perspective on life and just what she was up to. And then the guy, what's his name? Hold on, I need to look. Valeska, I think. Okay, Darcy Barrett and Tom Valeska are the two main characters. So they kind of grew up together. He was a boy next door who her and her family like helped take care of, helped raise, and they both kind of felt things sometimes. And since they've been adults, Tom has been with someone else, and yeah, so the two of them are back in each other's lives because Darcy's, I think her aunt or I don't know, some relative died, and she's been living in the house that was left to them, and they want to renovate it and sell it. Yeah, so Tom Valeska, who just started his own construction company, came back to help her renovate this house, and so now they're working together every day, and they are towing the line of something more than friendship. And yeah, it was really good at first, kind of, and then I just didn't like it much anymore. The two together were like too much, just too much. And then Darcy has a twin brother who, like, all the characters were interesting, but whenever they were interacting, like, it just didn't feel genuine. And the relationship wasn't my favorite, but yeah, so the book wasn't great. Moving on to great books. One of my most anticipated books that was coming out this year, Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is my third read by her, and I'm obsessed with the first two. Turns out I'm obsessed with the third one too. So this is a series of interviews by someone who wanted to write a book about Daisy Jones and the Six, who was a super famous rock band in the 70s, who had an infamous split in 79, I think. And like no one really knows why, because they were like at the height of their career, touring the world, whatever. So this tells the origin of the band and what ended up happening that led to their demise. And so the people being interviewed are ones that were close to the band or the actual band members themselves. This book was so good. The beginning of it, I know a lot of people have trouble getting into because they don't find it very interesting, which I agree with. The beginning's not very interesting, but I was so into it. And like, you're following these people's lives, but you don't know where the plot is going really. But I just found it so fun to read from them anyways. And so the whole story, the fake author's note at the beginning is telling you what I told you about the band breaking up. But I completely forgot after I passed page 1. And then I got to a certain point in the book and I was just shocked, like, what? They broke up? Yeah, I was warned on page 1 and I completely forgot. But and I wish I would have remembered that they were going to break up, because I was like, I was so thrown off. But anyways, the whole book is amazing, and I wish it was so much longer. I mean, it wraps up perfectly, but I just feel like I could have read about all these characters and like telling their story for the rest of their lives, and I would have loved it. But yeah, 5 out of 5 stars. I would say this is not better than Evelyn Hugo, but it's still 5 stars amazing. And then the last book I read in March was another most anticipated release of this year, and that is Before She Knew Him by Peter Swanson, an excellent thriller writer. This was so freaking good. This is my 4th read by him, and this is probably my favorite. So this follows a woman who moves into a new neighborhood, and she and her husband go over to dinner at the neighbor's house, and the couple next door is giving them a tour of their house, and the main character sees an item in the husband's office that she thinks links him to a murder that's gone unsolved. So it follows her trying to figure out if her neighbor's a murderer, which he is, and you find out within like the first 15 pages that he is. But this book like takes so many twists and turns, I think, and it's just amazing. I feel like it kind of might ruin other thrillers for me, just because, you know, when you read a thriller, there's so much speculation from the characters and like wondering, like, so whenever she sees the item in the husband's office, like in a normal thriller, she'd be like, oh no, I hope he didn't notice me. I don't think he noticed that I noticed. It'll be fine, whatever. But she'll think about it later or whatever. She's like, no, I know that he noticed me recognizing that thing. And the guy, Matthew, that has the trophy, he's like, I see that she noticed, and she must know that I'm a killer. Like, no characters in thrillers ever connect dots that fast. Like, normally he would be like, she did look at it for a long time, but she probably doesn't know what it's from, you know. He's immediately like, she knows, let me get rid of the evidence immediately. Like, there's just so many moments in the book like that where they're like, where they don't waste the book figuring out stuff. They're like, no, I know immediately something's wrong. But I love everywhere that this book took us. I really enjoyed Hen, the main character, and also Matthew, the murderer. You read from his perspective a bit, and I love them so much. And I just like wanted Matthew to murder more people, which is nutty, I know, but you'll get it if you read it, I think. There were definitely like some new ways that the plot went that I feel like I haven't read much of, but then there were also like some classic thriller tropes that I feel like were turned around or twisted a bit, or like a classic trope but I completely missed it and didn't see it was going there. Like, there's just so many different twists and so many different things going on. Oh, I enjoyed it so much. I love it. And you know, a thriller, like once you know what happened, you're like, it was fun, but you don't really want to read it again because you already know what's gonna happen. I want to read this again because it was just so much fun to read. Yeah, so this, another 5-star book, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Okay, so those were all the books that I read in February and March. At least the books that I completed. Yeah, so thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.